Hi friends, welcome back to our channel. And today we have a very special guest with us. So today we have Dr. Anastasia, and she's assistant professor here at University of Manchester. And she did her postgraduate and MSc and PhD from University of Warwick in Department of Applied Linguistics. And the reason why I invited her today because as you know, we have been making videos on student experience when they come to different countries for their high studies. So in that case, there is some parameters of communication, conversation that plays a very significant role. And the guest today, which we have, they have a very great experience and expertise in that. So let's directly hear from them. So Dr. Anastasia, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Gaurav. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a great opportunity for me to talk about issues of intercultural communication, which are of course very relevant to not just international students coming to the UK to pursue their studies, but also to home students, to local students. Thank you very much for doing this initiative, inviting me here today, and I'm very pleased to take part in this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, as when I was going through your research profile, and what I noticed that you have your PhD was some about socio-linguistic discourse analysis and intercultural communication.
Yeah.
And you yourself, you did your undergrads from University of Athens in Greece.
Yes.
And then you came to UK for your MSc, and so you have seen this transition from coming from a English-speaking country to a different country and doing your postgraduate study, and then you're working here. So you must have seen that change. And the same was with me as well. Like, I come from India. I did my undergrads there, and then I came here for PhD. So for me, it was all like change, you know, from culture to everything. So, and the same is with my friends as well, because during my PhD journey, I've seen this thing. So what I noticed, what I felt that the communication, you know, for us whose English is not the first language, sometimes we struggle. So this intercultural communication plays a very significant role in our academic journey. So how do you say this? And why do you think this is very important for all those students who coming to different university for their higher education, or like going to different university for their studies? So why this intercultural communication is very important?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, and I think it's really important to establish some kind of like basic knowledge, you know, before I start the podcast. Intercultural communication is really important, not just, as I said previously, not just for international students coming to the UK to study, but also for local students, home students as well. So it is a skill that actually people develop over the course of their lives as soon as they are exposed to a different environment, to a new culture, where they have to use a language that perhaps is not their the first language, their mother tongue, and they have to use it more extensively in their everyday lives, in their at the university during their studies, etc. So I think one important point here that I should outline is the fact that very often we tend to to assume that culture is a monolithic thing and a concept that is the same everywhere across one country. However, this is not correct, and you can have many different cultures even within the same country. So
yeah, like we have in India, like
exactly,
we have different language, different food.
Absolutely.
And we have a very famous saying that within 15 kilometers, the taste of water and the language changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
India is a good example of that. China is another good example. And those cultural differences are not just noticed in terms of language, in terms of communication, how people say things, but also how they express other concepts such as politeness or directness or indirectness. This can differ not just across countries, but even within the same country. Another example that you've mentioned about food, for instance, I know that, you know, for instance, depending on where you are in China, you may prefer rice or noodles. This is, you know, like
very basic staple.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Whether you are in the north, or in the south. Or more recently, actually, I was in China in December for a couple of weeks for teaching purposes, and I was in Beijing with a friend of mine, a local friend, a Chinese, who used to be one of my flatmates while at Warwick. And we were together. We're looking the exit of the temple that we had just been, and she asks one of the staff, "Where is the exit?" And the staff says, "Oh, it's in the south." And she tells me that, "Well, I come from the south of the building. I mean, the southern direction." So she tells me that, well, this was very different to what I'm exposed to, what I'm used to, because she comes from southern China. So she told me that in the south we prefer go to the right or go to the left. But in the north, where Beijing is, they say go. It's like to the north or the south. So you can see that those differences. Those communication choices, those linguistic choices differ even within the same country, depending on where you are, which part of the country you are. So this was a very, small example, but it can still reflect what we mean about intercultural. What is the interest essentially of intercultural communication, and that is how to bridge the differences between people who come from different cultures, and they have different communication patterns, different norms, ways of communicating, expectations as well, and how can we bridge all these differences when we come into contact and we live and collaborate together. So higher education is, especially in the UK, is a very multicultural, very diverse environment. Hence, I think is an ideal environment to study those topics, those concepts.
Yeah, because UK is quite cosmopolitan and students from different parts of the world are coming. And the moment they land, as you mentioned, like even they experience some sort of difference in cultural communication, even in their country. But coming here, it's like at next level. And here, then you're exposed to like a cultural shock that there are so many changes. So considering like you were students, now you're teaching and you must have friends, those who have came, to different countries. So what do you think, like the major sort of issue that students find in cultural communication, like what kind of problem they face because of that? Like if they are lagging in intercultural communication, if it's not very good, then what kind of issues, the problems they face?
Yeah. I would call it more like a challenge, not a problem, because I
obviously
feel
it's a challenge.
Yes, exactly, because I think that a problem has pretty much like a negative connotation, whereas we don't want students to be scared of coming to the UK, of any potential problems they face. There will be
like
challenges. Exactly, there will be moments of struggle or challenging times, and there are, in everyone's lives. My first time in the UK was, as you said correctly, when I came here to pursue a master's. I was at Warwick, at the University of Warwick. It is a smaller university than Manchester, but still very multicultural, very diverse. I think one of the most prominent challenges that students face when they first arrive to the UK is probably it is
I mean, the one I can think of the moment, like suppose in Asian countries, the type of friendship, like the friends, the way we make.
Okay.
And the moment you come to UK, I mean, I'm telling based on my experience and what I've seen with my friends, the friendship is quite different. Like the expectations in friendship is quite different.
Yes, and, you're right.
And we don't do that in Asia. I'm not sure about the rest part of the world, but it's not something as in South Asia. So that was one of the thing which I struggled in the beginning to communicate, because even if I consider someone in department, okay, now we're having good terms, we you can ask for any favor or help, and then you don't know that person might be thinking that that's a favor, so in return I'll get some favor. So that's kind of friendship they think. That's how it worked, but maybe it's not what I have seen. So that was sort of communication which I didn't know that this could happen, and that happened with me. So I struggle in the beginning, that the expectation in friendship is not the same what you have been doing back in your country. So that's one of the, you can say, then I was not able to express my friendship with friends, like if we are helping, then what kind of favors we can take or not. So that was one of the gap that I found.
Yeah.
So what do you think, like what others students generally see in this field?
Yeah, so interpersonal relations are obviously a big part of intercultural communication more broadly, and it's one of the, let's say, subsequent parts of intercultural training can offer. So you can develop your interpersonal communication with other people. So I guess that the major challenges that students face when firstly coming to the UK, or at least this educational system, are aspects of everyday life at the university which are different to what they have experienced previously, and therefore aspects of academic life which are different and perhaps more challenging to what they have previously seen. You've mentioned one aspect of academic life at the university, which is pretty much related with collaboration with colleagues, peers, or your professors, which it's indeed different as to how people communicate in other environments, in other cultures. Another big, I think, challenge that students come across when they firstly come here is perhaps housing, accommodation, and the arrangements that you have to do in advance, or getting along with your flatmates, or generally arranging accommodation before coming here can be something that is different for many students. Struggling to find on-campus accommodation is another big struggle that many students face. So I think it has to do mostly with all these aspects of life that you go through, that you experience when firstly arriving in a new country in general. So, the first couple of days or weeks can be a little bit more challenging, but assuming that you'll get into a routine gradually and you will meet other students who perhaps go through the same situations as you are going through, this perhaps can help you overcome those challenges gradually and focus on your studies, which is like the main reason why you are here in the first place.
There's also one more point that I noticed even with my friends. Like when you're trying to express yourself, when you're coming to a different country or doing your education, you're trying to express yourself. So again, your upbringing has been a different country where some set of core values you have learned, which might not be as relevant in expressing yourself when you're here right now. Like, for example, a very common gesture of thumbs up.
Yeah.
When you show a thumbs up to someone, that's like, okay, that's good. All right. That's fine. But then you get to know that some students come from different part of the world where this hand gesture is not very taken as a positive thing.
Yeah.
So again, that's created some sort of miscommunication among students.
Yeah. Yes, I think you are right. There will be times that, of course, if you are unaware of the culture or perhaps the communicative norms or expectations, there will be challenging moments, and there will be times that perhaps something that you do is considered inappropriate for that culture. I think the most, I don't want to say the best way, but a beneficial way for you to overcome those challenges will be to start observing how native speakers talk, how they behave, what kind of communicative patterns they use, how they interact with other local native speakers in general. So start developing your observation as well as listening skills is perhaps something that will make you more knowledgeable and perhaps make you overcome those challenging moments. You're right in a sense that different cultures have different understandings of what is appropriate or inappropriate, direct or indirect, to say during a conversation. And yeah, these are some of the challenges that you'll have to face, you'll go through. Obviously, the longer you live in another country, or the longer you live in a new environment, or the more environments you have been exposed to, the more you have traveled, of course, you will be exposed to different ways of life, different cultures. So perhaps this will ease a little bit the adjustment process, the adjustment period.
Like it takes time, but eventually it happens.
Yes, it requires time. It doesn't happen from one day to another. It depends, of course, on the person and how much effort you invest, how much effort you put in getting to know local people, native speakers, and interacting with them. So it will take time. It depends on each individual, I suppose.
So do you think during this journey, students also struggle while like trying to staying connected with the new culture which they are experiencing in the new country, at the same time balancing like some sort of I would say like embracing the new life, but at the same time trying to carry your own core values, the culture that you're bringing. So students struggle there as well because, you know, they are trying to change. Let's say, for example, the accent.
Yeah.
So if your accent is a bit different, so people might struggle here to understand you, and you will also struggle in the same way. So over a period of time, slowly, the accent also gets changed.
Yeah.
Because students start feeling that if I try to speak in this particular accent, I'll be more acceptable in a sense. People will easily understand me.
Yeah.
So they try to make small changes in there, even in their food habits.
Yeah.
So the kind of food you used to eat back in your country, now you might not be eating the same food every day. So you're changing your food habits as well. So these kinds of small changes you're making in yourself to make yourself comfortable, or, you know, to accommodate yourself in the new place. But at the same time, there's also a struggle that are you trying to change yourself too much that you're losing your own identity that your culture has given? Or so there's a struggle between in these two parameters in students. What do you think, that this struggle is something which, how students should manage this struggle?
Yeah, well, that's another great question, and you know, I think many of our students, many of the students of the master's program that I teach, which is in Intercultural Communication, have explored this topic, have chosen this topic for the purposes of their dissertation. So I have supervised a couple of dissertations in the past.
I think exactly. I've got the right person to ask this question.
Yes,
then.
Exactly this topic. So students are eager to investigate, to explore the adaptation process of international students here at Manchester. Let's say, you know, like let's take this local example. However, I think that, I remember what I was taught as a master's student back in the days, and of course from the experience I have gained over the course of my years here in the UK. I think that what it is important is not to fully adapt yourself into the new culture that you now live in. But rather adjust perhaps your identity or parts of your identity in order to fit in the new culture. As you said, many students feel that they have to change their accent, the way that they talk, or the way that the food that they consume, in order to be accepted by the local culture, the home culture, as we call it, and be embraced by locals as well. You can make those small changes as you have outlined. You can make those subtle changes gradually. So you can make those adjustments. You don't have to fully detach yourself from your who you are before, who you were before coming to the UK. So you can gradually change parts of your identity to fit in. But again, I think it is important to keep in mind that you need to be accepted by others, how you are, the way you are, not to change yourself to fully be accepted by others. So others will like you regardless of your accent or your behavior. So it is of course important to if you think that you have to change, identity. But it is also important, to keep your identity and who you are, who you are essentially. And I think this is how you will grow. You will grow if you see what challenges you are going through, then you try to reflect. You observe actually, and you think and reflect, how can I perhaps change some parts of my identity to better fit in the new culture. And then after this reflection process, you can make the change that you want to. And as a result, this will be like the whole learning process for you. That you will grow up by that. You don't have to lose your identity, who you are, simply to fit in.
As you were mentioning about the losing identity, so I remember one of the independent cinema I was watching recently, and that was based on the Greek some story. I don't know about the story, but the name is The Ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
So in that story, they talk about that changing planks of the ship one by one. If you change all the planks, so is it the new ship or the old ship? The ship has lost the identity or they gain a new identity? Something like that, when you change in bits and pieces to yourself here. So as you mentioned, that don't lose your core values or identities just to impress other people, but just to feel comfortable or, to wade through those situations. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. And at the same time also, so once students have came here, they have tried to, adopt and learn things in order to groom themselves, because grooming, evolving is a process which happens all through your life. During this process now, after starting their education, now there are few things which comes in around, like as we're talking about the cultural shock. So do you think for students to acknowledge this thing that, okay, there is a cultural change and this is how it's going to make change in my life, or they should just ignore it and, keep going with their life? Like the acknowledgement of the realization of the cultural shock is important, because does that prepare students that things might change? Or if you don't even give a damn about it, things are still going to affect you. What do you think?
Yeah, usually when, studies have shown actually, studies in cross-cultural communication have specifically focused on this first period of adjustment, or the first time that newcomers, let's say, come into a new culture, a new environment. And usually the first couple of, the first phase of this, what you described as culture shock, is described as actually the honeymoon phase.
Okay.
Because on the first couple of days or perhaps even weeks, things can be very nice for you. You live in a new country by yourself. You perhaps have the opportunity to experience new things that you haven't come across before. So this is a period that everything seems nice and pleasant, and exciting. After probably a couple of weeks, this is what we call the, let me get it right.
Please.
So after this honeymoon phase comes the adjustment period, where you realize that actually life is not always happy and pleasant and exciting, and things can go sideways, and there may be some disorientating instances that make you feel stressed or anxious about, or you start to realize that, my studies here are actually more challenging, they require more effort than I originally thought. So after this adjustment period, that you start to realize how things actually work in this new culture, in the new environment, this is what comes the adaptation period. This is what we discussed previously about reflecting on how you can adjust yourself into the new environment, not necessarily to fit in the new environment, but also for you to feel more comfortable, more pleasant into this new environment, because you will come in a new country, you'll spend a year of your life studying. If you're a master's student, if you come here for an undergrads or a doctoral degree, you'll stay here longer, 3 to 4 years. So it is important to
acknowledge it and
exactly
and embrace it.
Exactly, it is important to embrace the differences and try to adjust yourself accordingly to live in a comfortable environment. And this is, this is part of a whole learning process, as we said before. Acknowledging the differences and trying to embrace them.
It's gonna make it easier.
Exactly. For you and for your life in this country for the next 3, 4, or even longer years.
Yeah. Okay, so having said that, the very next big, again, challenge, not the problem, the challenge comes as the homesickness.
Yeah.
So students coming from different parts of the world and living away from their home, now they're exposed to something called homesickness, and which is very frequent and common. So again, the acknowledgement of homesickness, that yeah, you're missing your family, you're missing your home, is something which can affect the students mentally, and that can decrease their productivity in studies. So what do you think? How important is this homesickness thing for students to go through and to overcome this, and what mechanism sort of things they can develop to overcome these?
Yeah. Homesickness can affect students, as you said, students' mental health, as you said, but also, and subsequently, their performance, their academic performance, which is very important because they are here to study. So this is the primary goal here, is to have a degree, to study. And as a result, homesickness or feelings of homesickness may result them in a more profound and perhaps negative way. So I think it is, first of all, I think it is important to outline that we all feel homesickness. Everyone who lives away from their home, from their family, will experience this feeling at some point in their life, at different stages of your life. I think it is natural. Although I'm not specialized in this area, I believe that reflecting on myself.
Did you go through this phase, like when you came away from your home?
Well, not necessarily when I came. I think when I firstly arrived at the UK, I was. It felt like a quite. I think my adaptation period was quite easy for me. It was very easy for me to adapt myself into this environment, and I think a very important factor of that was the fact that I had also lived abroad as an exchange student in the past during my undergrad, so I had already experienced I already had this experience of living away from your.
So you had this exposure before.
Yes, and also I studied at the University of Athens in Greece. I don't come from Athens, though. I come from another smaller part of Greece, and as a result, I was living away from my parents by definition since I was 18. So I
so
was
you
kind
left your home at 18?
Yes, at the age of 18. So I think I was already used to the idea of being away from my parents because I'm studying. This was kind of like normal for me, to being away from them. And as I've mentioned before, I would see my parents during holidays only. So it wasn't something new to me that, okay, I'm further away, I'm not in Greece, but still, the fact that I had a degree in English language and literature, I think was quite important as well, because I did all my studies in English while I was in Greece, all my undergrad, so I was more used to the idea of using this language as medium of communication. Right? Or even for academic purposes, like everyday life at the university, I was used to having my classes in English. I was used to being taught in English, or writing my essays, my exams in English. So it wasn't really new. This whole thing wasn't so new to me. But going back to your question about homesickness, I think it is, as I was saying before, I think it is a feeling that everyone experiences in their lives every now and then, or regardless, or depending on their phase of their life. And sometimes it also depends on wider societal factors, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. If you were here in the UK, of course you would miss your family if your family was further away. So during a period of high uncertainty and insecurity, I mean,
there is some sort of concern as well at that moment, like concern for your family, because that's a very critical time.
So exactly, you have concern, as you said, you're concerned about your family who is away, and you also perhaps feel more homesick during this uncertain period. So I think it is normal to experience those emotions, those feelings to a certain extent. I think where you have to act and seek help from dedicated services and people who have knowledge and have studied this and and do this professionally, is when this starts to affect more your mental health and of course your academic performance. So universities have those services, well-being services that can help students. So I would say that, especially, like your audience is international. So for everyone who thinks of coming to the UK to study, I would say them that you don't have to feel discouraged to come here because of any second thoughts you have. Even if you are far away from your family, from your parents, your network, you can still build a new network here, a new network, supporting network here, and of course seek help from dedicated services at the university. Most, if not all, universities have their well-being and welfare facilities with staff there to help you. So you are not alone in this.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say.
You're not alone in the journey. Like as you were mentioning that you left your home when you were 18, and the same case was with me as well. Like I come from a small town, and then for my civil engineering I went to different cities. So I would say in the beginning I felt that sort of homesickness thing when I left my home for the first time. But over a period of time, how I managed through that situation, like I stopped thinking about it. And after some point in time, then I realized that no, I don't miss that family and the home thing anymore because I've stopped thinking about it. I don't know how healthy was it, but that really helped me. And when I shared this thing with my friends, so few of my friends also mentioned this thing, that the more you think about these things, it like sort of creates situation where you continuously miss. But if you stop thinking about it, it helps you somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm only speaking here based on my experience. As I said, I'm not a
as you said,
mental health specialist here. I have no training or further knowledge on this. But I think you're right in that sense. I think the more you think about it, the more it will affect you. So I wouldn't say you. Yeah, you may say you stop thinking about this homesickness feeling, but at the same time, if you have to keep up with all the daily changes in your life, all the expectations you have to fulfill, or not expectations. Sorry, I don't think I put it right there. What I'm trying to say is that you are the university. Every day it's a new day. You have to go to a new class. You have to be prepared for that class. You have to do all sorts of things during your day. So the busier you keep yourself, I think the more likely is that you don't really experience, you don't feel this homesickness, these emotions of homesickness, because probably you don't have time to think about it if you have a very busy schedule, everyday schedule. So this is what I just wanted to add.
I mean, like if you try to just keep yourself busy in different things, and then you don't have time to think about these things. And just to add on this thing, I was reading this book. You must have heard the Meditation by Marcus Aurelius. So in that book also, he also talks about the same thing, that all the control that you have is over on your mind, on your brain, that you can control. You can't control anything outside of that. So if these kinds of situations are like that, that's helped me. And not sure how healthy was it, but it helped me, and this could be for other students as well. Okay. So having talked about all these things, now when the students come to UK, again, the academic expectations in UK is quite different, because as you did your undergrads from your home country and then you did your postgraduate here, same as with me and same with this lot of students. So the expectations when you are in your home country or in a different countries could be different, but when you come to UK, there are academic expectations are different. So do you think that's also one of the challenge which students have to face, and how could they overcome this?
Definitely. The academic expectations here in the UK, I think I'm going to focus only for the UK, because this is, like the country where we live in and we have been exposed to. So academic expectations here are quite different compared to other countries, not just in Europe, but even outside Europe. So they're definitely different in terms of postgraduate studies, and I'm focusing on postgraduate studies because I did my postgraduate studies here, but also I teach on a postgraduate course here at the University of Manchester. So although I'm of course familiar with the undergraduate studies and setting, I'm not fully aware of all the expectations, but generally academic expectations is one big challenge that international students often face with, and that's because the grading system is different here. So for postgrads, for example, anything above 70 is considered a distinction. So a mark in the 60s band, it is also considered a good decent grade. Sometimes students, especially in the first semester, when they see their marks and they see like a 65 or a 62 or a 68, they think that they haven't done a good job. So anything in the 60s band, they think that they have done a terrible job or that it was not good enough.
That could be demotivating for students, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why we emphasize it at the start of the academic year, that expectations are different, not just in terms of marking, of course, as in terms of assessment, but also in terms of how much time you have to dedicate to for self-study, let's say, for research. You're a postgraduate student, so you're not supposed to be taught everything as perhaps you were exposed in your undergrad. You are supposed to be exposed to a variety of topics, of areas, and then if you want to gain more specialized knowledge on something, you have to do this own individual research by yourself. So this is also something that students also struggle with. They think that and again I'm referring only postgraduate taught students here, they think that their lecturers should know everything, or they think that, well, if my course is, let's say, about syntax or morphology, I will be taught everything about syntax or morphology, which is not the case. Your lecturers will expose you to some core basic ideas of this field, but then it's up to you to develop your own research skills in order to find out more. And that's, and that happens because at the end of the academic year, students are expected to write a dissertation, and a dissertation, which is a bigger piece of coursework. Of course, the number of the word limit depends on departments, on academic departments or even universities, but usually it's around 12 to 15,000 words, different from an undergrad dissertation, which is, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 words, if I'm not mistaken. So it is a major piece of work that is produced by a student, and it means that you have to do research yourself. You need to read, you need to analyze some data and come to some conclusions, and this all happens gradually through the course of the year when you are exposed to different ways of being taught, for example. Or another challenge that students may face while being here, especially for postgraduates or even undergraduate studies, is the seminars and how we do seminars here at most, I would say, UK universities. Students are supposed to be more active, participate, talk to their classmates, interact with their tutors, with their lecturers, which is again something different that which is often different to what they have been exposed in the past. So when I was, for example, an undergraduate student at the University of Athens, we mostly had a lecture type. The mode of teaching was mostly based on lectures. So you were sitting in a large lecture theater, and you had a professor standing, and you would take notes. There was very minimum interaction with your lecturer back then. Things may have changed now. It's been a couple of years since I graduated, so things may have changed now, but at least, I was exposed to this way of teaching. So when I came here for my master's, it was new to me that I had to have a lecture for 1 hour, which again,
it was not simply my lecturer talking about definitions, abstract concepts or definitions. There was still interaction during the lecture per se, and then of course there were more participation, and our participation was needed in a sense during the works, during seminars, because we were put in groups and we had to discuss some questions. So you had to collaborate, you had to communicate with your classmates and understand or answer questions. So this was something new to me as well. It was a little bit challenging at the start, especially if not everyone in your group is not willing to contribute to the conversation. You know, it's not the same for everyone.
So do you think that you're talking about this seminar thing where a lot of students come together and work in the groups and seminar presentation? So do you think the intercultural communication that we were talking about before, does that also play a very crucial role here when students are working together?
Absolutely,
and different students, different
absolutely.
groups?
Even if absolutely, you can develop your communication, your team working skills through those ways of interacting with others within this academic setting. So when we ask students to do a kind of group work, either this is in class or outside of class as part of their assessment, we ask them to do so because they have to come together, they have to communicate, they have to interact and talk about the topic that they have to present or discuss, generally speaking. So they develop not just their knowledge, the academic knowledge, the subject knowledge by collaborating with others, but they also develop their skills, their communication skills mostly, but also other necessary skills which they have to demonstrate later on when you go into the job market. So you have to demonstrate, usually during an interview, you have to show that you have team working skills or you have good collaboration skills. You can make decisions, therefore leadership skills. So you can gradually develop those skills, don't come from one day to the other.
It takes time.
Exactly. You can develop those skills during those everyday interactions. During classrooms. During classrooms.
So like when the students were working together in the groups for their seminars or the project, did you notice like there some sort of barriers that they faced, that these are the barriers in our social connections when the students are trying to work together?
Do you mean that students may sometimes be a little bit more reserved?
Yeah, like hesitation sort of thing. To because at the moment I'm working as a GTA for one of the course, and there we had made groups. So my GTA lead told me, when you're making groups, so obviously we have the name list of the students, and she told me that when you divide the group, try to make sure you put different ethnicity students in one group. So the reason is so that they can talk and work together.
They will bring different aspects on the table. People from different cultures. Exactly. This is what we usually aim to do, to group people from different cultures together, so that they interact differently, and as a result, they can learn and develop out of this.
And we have noticed that in the beginning, the group have struggled. But over a period of time, like after 3-4 group meetings, then they started gelling each other into, and it became fine.
Yes, I think that's a great point to mention here, because going back to what we're discussing, what I've mentioned before about different cultures, different cultural expectations, or what is appropriate or inappropriate for one culture or another. So imagine yourself being in a group with people from different cultures. You have certain expectations or knowledge, for example, that based on your culture. So the way that you even start a conversation may be different from one culture to another. Maybe they don't know who is going to start our group discussion, right? Who is going to break the ice? So these are, I guess, challenges that students go through when they first meet with other peers, classmates, and they're asked to work together, to collaborate. But as you said, I think your observation was totally right. Over the course of the time, when the group has formed a community of doing things their own ways, a community of practice, as we call it, they have developed their own norms of communication, their own ways of communicating, their own norms of interacting, and as a result, they can gradually overcome those previous challenges and communicate more effectively. So yeah, I think it is a matter of time, but at the same time, it also requires effort from people. It requires effort to keep the pace going, to keep up the conversations going. It requires effort to work with others, collaborate with others.
So have you came across any case like where you have seen that students are trying to put effort, but still they are not able to make it? They are trying to put efforts in making conversation in the groups, but they are still struggling, and at the end of the day they get demotivated and they quit. Have you seen these cases? Because to be honest, I've seen these cases during my PhD.
I mean, I can't think like a very concrete example right now on the top of my mind, but
So do you think that, okay, so if this thing exists, it is happening with students, so how they can overcome this?
I think that, well, that's a good question, I think. Yes, I guess that, the first thing that you can do is either address this among your group members, among your peers, or if you don't feel comfortable saying it to the others, you can approach your I don't know, like the person who is actually in charge of the class. It could be like the lecturer, it could be a GTA, the seminar leader,
like their direct point of contact.
Exactly, the direct point of contact. So you can raise this point to them. And as a result, they can observe, come closer, I suppose, to the group, see how they observe, and perhaps try to provide some answers, some resolutions to the issues, to the challenges.
Yeah, I think academia have to, like the professor, supervisor, who is like monitoring or teaching them.
Yeah.
So they have to play a very proactive role here, because to make sure, because there are some students who really feel apprehensive about these things talking, and they don't put effort. In that case, they lag behind. But if the academia play a very proactive role in that case, then we can help those students.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe I would also say, just want to add that some people may be a little bit more, some students may be a little bit more introvert, so they're and as a result they don't feel, or perhaps they feel that their language skills are not good enough, are not well enough to contribute to those conversations. I think that these students could be encouraged and gradually become part of the wider conversations, of the wider group conversations. Yeah,
fine. So I think we talked about the challenges and struggle about these intercultural communication, but I'm pretty sure there must be some positive aspects. Like for instance, students from different parts of the world, when they come together, work in the university, if they're working on a research project, so do you think anyhow, in any way, this could help in some sort of research collaboration? I'm just giving an example. Yeah. It could help in some sort of research collaboration, like this intercultural communication can help in a positive way for research collaboration, or if of any other positive outcome that you have seen through your journey, that there's not only struggle, there is some positive aspects as well, which you can identify and you can let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. As I've mentioned previously, intercultural communication is not, let's say, a knowledge that you are taught. It's something that you can gradually gain and develop by exposing yourself to new scenarios, new environments. So the more you come in contact with others, the more you will develop your observation skills, your listening skills, your communication skills, team working skills are also really important. So yeah, you will develop all these by participating in research projects or in group work, or even if
even if like outside those academic scenarios, you can be part of a society, a sports group, and develop those skills. You will collaborate with students from other backgrounds. You will have to work with them, collaborate with them, especially if it's about a sports club that you have joined. There is a mutual engagement there. There is a team effort. There is something that you have to achieve. So you have to collaborate with others, and you can develop those skills by participating in societies, in sports clubs, or in any other sort of extracurricular activity that you're interested in. So you can develop those intercultural skills by generally participating in any form of communication, essentially any form of collaboration with others, either within the university or outside university.
So as you mentioned about this example of the sports thing, and I think when I was reading about your expertise, so you have some work in the sport field as well with intercultural communication. So are you trying to say that this could enhance the productivity if they are using it in a very positive way, like for taking the example of sports? So as you mentioned that in sports, if they're working together, so they can enhance the productivity with a better outcome.
Do you mean the productivity of the team?
Yeah.
Of the
yeah.
team. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Or maybe you can use example of your work, like what you did. How is it related to this intercultural communication thing?
So for my PhD thesis, for my doctoral research, I did not focus that much on aspects of intercultural communication. It was mostly focused on how leadership is done in a university basketball team without an officially assigned coach. So I took this this basketball team as a case study, where a group of basketball players come together. They don't have an official assigned coach, but they do make decisions, of course, as it is a team. So
is it a group decision, or it is decision something like led by someone?
Yeah, this is what actually I studied. So I think one of the conclusions that I've made was that it is definitely a collaborative decision, and in fact many different players contribute to the leadership performance at different times in different games. So it's not like a solo performance. It's a collaborative achievement there, I would say. But what I was the example I wanted to I provided previously in relation to sports clubs or societies is that you can develop those intercultural skills by you essentially meet people from different cultures outside your classroom. So you can meet, of course, your classmates, and you can develop those intercultural skills when you talk to them in class, or when you're collaborating with them for the purposes of a group task. But at the same time, you can also develop those skills if you join a sports club and you have to interact and you have to talk with people from different cultures. It may not be the academic scenario, but there is still a goal that you have to achieve. So when it comes to, let's say, a group work that you have to do as part of your assessment, you have to collaborate with others because you have to prepare this presentation or submit this report. When you are a member of a sports club, you have to collaborate with others because your aim is, of course, to win, right? So I think it can motivate you in that sense. It can be an incentive. I'm not sure if this is related to productivity. I can't tell with certainty, but I suppose that it can definitely motivate participants.
Yeah, and also in sports, as you mentioned, it's not a very structured way, like compared to you're working in a research group project where, different student, the contribution is very predefined that you have to do and follow. But while in a sports, so it could be you're working still together, but not in that very strict environment, and there you could express yourself more.
Yeah, could be, yes, of course.
Yeah, I think that's a very insightful discussion about all those topics of intercultural communication. So what you would like to say in the end, like to the students, those who are trying to come to, let's say, UK universities for their higher studies or even for the undergrads? So the kinds of they have the misconceptions about all those things, these challenges that we talked about.
Yeah.
So what kind of message you would give to those prospective students that don't take these challenges as something which is going to really affect you, but you can use it in a positive way? So what would you like to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that I would encourage everyone who wants to pursue studies in the UK to come here. I think they will. There are many things that they can learn. Not just knowledge they can acquire, academic knowledge, but also things that they can discover and learn about themselves as well. They will definitely develop themselves just by exposing, just by taking the opportunity and making the next step and exposing themselves into a new culture and a new life. Not just academic life, but also social life here in the UK. They will expose themselves to something new, and they can definitely learn and benefit from this, because one way or another they will have to deal with some challenges that they will have to overcome. Even if those challenges affect you positively or negatively, yet you will develop some strategies, some skills. Absolutely, to develop and overcome those challenges, and as a result grow, as you said. And yeah, I would say that, I would, as I said, I would encourage students to come and not be afraid to experience something new.
Yeah, so remember not to be afraid.
Yes, to experience something new. I think you can only learn from these. Of course, there will be challenging moments, stressful moments that you think that, well, I cannot cope with that. I wish I was closer to my parents, closer to my friends. But I think it is also important, and one point I want to outline here, because I think we didn't really mention this throughout the podcast, was about the networks that you build while being here, while studying abroad. And when I say networks, I mean the network of your classmates, your peers, your friends that you build. These are really a very important mechanism that can help you overcome any kind of challenges that you go through your period of life abroad. Not just in the UK. So I feel very, reflecting on myself and my experiences and my journey so far, I think I feel very pleased, very privileged that I studied at a very multicultural university that was Warwick. Manchester is as well, but I was back at Warwick then, that's why I'm saying that. It was a very multicultural university, and I had the opportunity to meet many people from different parts of the world during my MSc as well as PhD studies, and I am still in touch with many of them until this point. And these people have helped me a lot. Those friends have helped me a lot at different stages of my doctoral studies, because as you know, doctoral studies are often described as a lonely journey, but I think I never really felt lonely during my PhD studies, because I had friends from different mostly outside of my department, who I was very close with, and
So did you live in uni accommodation?
Pardon?
Did you live in uni accommodation?
I did live, but yes, I did live. But even if my friends were not living in the same accommodation, they were living off campus. Hence, we were still very close, and they have helped me a lot over the course of the years, because there have been different challenging moments over the course, of a PhD journey. So yeah, I'm really glad that I've met them. And they have helped me, as well as, of course, I help them as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, I mean, there are so many positive aspects, as Dr. Anastasia mentions, and you need to look out on those positive aspects, and then you can focus on these things. There's one question that I had. There's something like students were asking in the comment section on my last videos, and I think I can ask you, because you have been in UK in 2 different universities, and they have different QS rankings. So students sometimes they are very confused about when applying for the higher studies for PhD. So the QS ranking of the university does really matters, or if they are approaching a supervisor, the I would say not qualification, like the experience, the research expertise of supervisor matters. Like, it's one side is the QS ranking of the university, and one side the supervisor who has a research expertise in which you're trying to work. So which one is more important here? Like you can answer to this question being as a student, because you have been a PhD student and you have applied through so many applications, and now you are teaching.
But I think it's a really hard question to answer. It's not black or white, to be honest.
So there's gray area.
So of course the university rankings are important, and of course if you come from abroad and you want to apply to a PhD program, and you want to spend the next 3 to 4 years or even 5 years of your life, you want to be at a good university because you, in a sense, you invest the next couple of years of your life so you can have a brighter future, a brighter career in the future, right? So of course you want to choose a university that will help you, that will offer you many opportunities, not just academic opportunities, but also wider opportunities. I mean, opportunities in terms of teaching. You could be hired at some point as a GTA and therefore develop your teaching skills. But perhaps the bigger the university, the more the chances, the opportunities you have in terms of participating in research collaborations, in projects, working part-time at the university as well, in any kind of like part-time jobs that you can still develop yourself. For instance, during my PhD studies, I was also a work ambassador. I was working part-time every now and then, doing campus tours at the university to prospective students or participating in open days. It wasn't, of course, a permanent job. Obviously, it was exactly on a part-time basis, perhaps twice a month or so. It was not demanding. But I'm saying that, I was offered this opportunity because Warwick, the University of Warwick, had the capacity to recruit a couple of students every year to work as ambassadors of the university. So this is what I mean, that universities, I think that also adds to my previous point about students thinking to coming here to study. I would say that universities in the UK usually offer you many opportunities, and if you have your eyes open, you can take those opportunities, you can grab those opportunities. So be willing to take as much as, to benefit from as much as you want. So going back to my point here about rankings or PhD supervisor. So as I was saying, the overall ranking and the performance of a university is important, but at the same time you have to keep in mind that you will be working closely with someone will be supervising you for the next 3 to 4 years. So you will collaborate with that person, right? You will interact with this person, and if you have never met them before, perhaps it's a little bit challenging for you to get to know them at the start of your PhD journey. So you could either meet this potential supervisor before even applying to the university, if you meet them at a conference, for example, or you can send them an email.
Or these open days?
During open days, exactly. You can meet them during open days or interact with them via email before even starting your application, because in most cases when students apply, at least at Manchester, at the University of Manchester, in most cases they approach you firstly. So they get in touch with you firstly. You get to know the student. They can get an understanding of yourself. You can also get a sense of themselves before even applying, because it is important to be able to know that you will work with this person effectively for the next couple of
because
years.
3-4 is a commitment.
It's a lot. It's many actually. It's a long period of time, and I have had friends in the past who did not have the best supervisory experiences with their supervisors. As you said, coming from different cultures, there are different expectations, different ways of working and supervising students. Or on the one hand, as a supervisee, you have more expectations of your supervisor that they are supposed to give you. So these are things that you have to keep in mind before starting this chapter of your life. And finally, to conclude, just to say that in my case, I did my master's at work, and then I continued my PhD with my dissertation supervisor, who was also one of my lecturers during my master's. So I knew her. I mean, I had met her.
Yeah.
I knew how she works, what is, her routine generally, how she collaborates, how she interacts with students, and I knew that I would like to work with this professor for my PhD studies as well.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much. I think we covered almost all the topics that we
Great.
aimed initially, and I hope students are going to get a lot of benefit from this video.
I hope so.
Yeah, so thank you very much for giving your valuable time. And students, if you have any doubts regarding whatever the discussion we did during this podcast, so you can drop in comment box and you can email us. You have got all the descriptions in the chat box. So, and if you like the videos, please like and share, subscribe with your friends, and we'll be bringing more such videos and inviting such expert guests.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. And of course, thank you for your time, Gaurav. Gaurav, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.